I am JB Bryan, the President and Chief Investment Officer at JB Bryan Financial Group, the home of AfroEconomics. And this is Wednesday. And when it's Wednesday and it's lunchtime, it is time for us to do, I have a habit of always saying a webinar, but this is time for us to do a teleconference, workshop, webinar, whatever, however, in whatever format that you want to take it in. But since I started the webinar, it has made it so much more convenient for you to have a no excuse attitude about getting your financial empowerment. So I love it. But even more than that, if you're at a job where you can listen, you can do the teleconference too. So go to AfroEconomics, look up events, or call 1-844-JB-Bryan. Or when you go into the website, you'll see there's a little, it says chat now. You can do that and then say whatever your heart's desire. If you need additional information on anything, membership, investments, entrepreneurship, just let us know. JB Bryan Financial Group is a registered investment advisory firm, the home of AfroEconomics in Virginia, Maryland, Washington, D.C., and New York. If you're anywhere else, just let us know. We are ready to serve you as well. So just because we're not there doesn't mean we don't want to be there. So we want to serve you. For you webinar people, please ask any questions. I'm going to go through some of my thoughts about what's good debt, bad debt. Okay, so I want to start with debt to avoid, and let me pick one that you probably don't think of a lot, but I had to make sure that I made a mention of it, that borrowing from yourself in your work retirement plan is a no-no. And I think that probably 8 out of 10 retirees that I meet, because I tend to meet people near the end of their careers, if not at the end. And I love to meet you earlier in your career because, and that's why I'm doing these webinars, because I want to make sure that we're maximizing our working years. So share this with everybody who's working. But my point is that when you have your retirement account and then they tell you, oh, loans are available. Well, some people sign up. Their first question is, are there loans available? So can I take a loan from it? I think one of the best things about IRAs might be that you cannot take a loan from them. But I tell you, if you search far and long and wide enough, you probably find a place that will allow you to take a loan from your investment accounts, your IRAs. But they leave your 401k alone if you can. I beg you to make sure that you realize that you're borrowing. Yes, indeed, you're borrowing from yourself. But let's just say that you're putting away $300 a month or $100 a week, or let's just say $200 a pay period that you're putting away. And then you decide that I've got to have this money. I've got to take this money out. I need this loan. Well, then if your loan payment ends up being $300 a month and you're only putting away $400 a month, then your savings is only the difference between that 300 and the 300 and the 400. So you're really only saving $100 a month because you slowed yourself down because you took the loan out. And God forbid, if you lose that job or they downsize or you decide that you just want to work somewhere else, well, that loan becomes an unexpected taxable event that in many cases ends up being a situation with tax penalties, because a lot of times the people taking out these loans are under full retirement age, are under 59 and a half, and they're faced with these penalties because they leave that job and they can't make those loan payments back because they can only make the payments back in most cases while they work there. So be very careful about borrowing from your retirement account at work. And they've made them very attractive. Some of them, you can borrow up to $50,000. If you talk to anybody who's taken one out, they will tell you, I wish that I could have figured out another way. Now, we all know we live in a world where things happen. So, but I'm just encouraging us to, when you're getting that type of situation, speak with a financial advisor about, is this really the best thing for me to do? Are there options? Is there a way around it? Don't just do it just because it's easier, because it's available to you, and don't let anybody talk you into it. You know, because there's people who want you to buy things and they know you have that money at work, and they will tell you, take the money from your work plan. Why? Right? Because what? They're getting paid from you taking that money out, but you're hurting yourself. So then the second point is, how about financing a wedding? Now, I talked about this yesterday when I discussed this topic at CBS in Virginia this morning, and that one of the worst things, well, one of the biggest things that people argue about when they're married is finances. So if you get married and start the marriage with a debt for the wedding, that can become a huge problem. So avoid taking out a loan for your marriage. If you can't afford to do a wedding, and I think that you should get married, but you should avoid the debt that goes along with it. People actually put off getting married because they want to save up for the wedding. Now, of course, we're talking about my financial advisor opinion here. I feel that you should get married, and even during your marriage, make a commitment to avoiding unnecessary debt. And starting your marriage with debt it's how can that actually pay off for you by going into debt? I think weddings are beautiful, but you can still have a wedding. The wedding itself is not expensive. You can have the most beautiful wedding, and it does not have to be expensive. You know, it really doesn't. It's the other parts that really outside of the wedding that really become expensive. You can get a church, rent a church, hire the minister probably, and do everything with under $1,000. But just something for you to think about, or to encourage others. If you have children or you're thinking about going into debt, then maybe you and them can sit down and look at this and say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't. So we want to avoid going into debt for matrimony. Definitely try to make sure that each of you have the same, attitude about debt. And that if one of you is like, oh, I love debt, and one of you isn't, that's going to be a challenge, because, I'm terrified of any unnecessary debt. So it's difficult. I remember being in a relationship one time, and he wanted to go on a vacation using a credit card that we weren't quite sure how we were going to pay the credit card off. And I wouldn't have mind using the credit card as long as I knew that we were going to pay it off within the 30 days. And it was devastating to him that I did not support the decision to go into debt, for this trip. But so he went on the trip. That was the end of that. He went on the trip without me, and, that was that. But that's a good thing. No matter how much it hurts, you have to stand by what your financial principles are. And of course, that ended up with him having some really bad financial challenges, but it's anyway. But make sure that you have, and you move towards having a relationship minus the financial problems in a good way, is to making sure that you both have the same financial mentality. So let's also talk about co-signing. Look, also relates to relationships, right? But I hear that a lot, that people will co-sign. Now, I think that maybe once in my life I've co-signed for something, and then I ended up having to buy my way out of, that situation, because somebody's going to have to buy their way out. So you got to have the money to buy your way out if it doesn't work out. Even as a parent, I have the most beautiful people. I could give you the saddest stories in the world. I mean, you're talking about good people who have signed for things for their grandchildren, who are now struggling to recover from their grandchildren not wanting to pay the debt back. It's really sad. So we have to figure out how to be a good person and be supportive without co-signing things. In reality, I would prefer you just buy it, just sign it yourself than co-signing, because when you sign it yourself, if you're gonna buy this, if you co-sign, you need to really look at it as you are literally buying it yourself. You're not really, there's no co there. You should look at it mentally that there's no co, because the worst case scenario is what we should financially focus on. Right? We should focus on what is the worst thing that can happen when you co-sign for something. The worst thing that can happen is that you will have to pay for it all, even though it was based on both credits. Because if you want to protect your credit, when you co-sign for something and they don't keep the commitment, then you're going to, definitely have to take care of that debt on your own if they don't come through. And especially when you're talking about, I've had several situations with great people having the situation of co-signing for someone else's school loan debt, and then having to, that student not wanting to pay that debt back. So co-signing on loans, we talk about with the cars and stuff, that, we know we've seen the stories on that. We've seen movies joke on that, but that we know that that's wrong, because they're going to be riding around in a car, and if they don't make that payment and they have that car. Oh, one person I met with, he had purchased for a girlfriend a motorcycle, and he doesn't ride motorcycles, but he purchased it for her in his name because she wanted the bike. And she gets the bike. That's different. Like, you don't hear that every day, right? And then like she's riding around on the bike and she won't make the payments anymore. And I'm like, that's your bike. You really literally need to go and pick it up. But they don't see that. Especially in that situation, she doesn't think that she needs to pay that back. And he didn't even co-sign, he bought it, for this person. But co-signing, buying something for someone and thinking that because it's specifically for them to drive or to ride, that they're going to pay it is a no-no. So co-signing on loans, a very bad debt. Taking out loans on your retirement, very bad debt. By making loans for doing special ceremonies, or especially weddings or sweet 16s, going into debt for those type of things, bad debt. Poor use of your credit cards. Poor use of the credit cards would mean putting money on the credit card that you can't pay off, spending more than 30% of that credit card balance, because that can negatively impact your credit score. And we don't think about that. They don't tell you, oh, you're using over 30%. They don't even put it in the statement. Oh, this will negatively impact your credit usage on your credit score. I think that we need to carefully monitor our credit report and our credit score and what's out there on us from a credit worthiness, because we need to never in our life have any financial surprises. But I tell you, improper use of credit cards will destroy your credit report and make it hard for you to have debts that you can use, the proper debt, some good debt that can actually empower you possibly, because of the improper use of the bad debts. So, and co-signing for things and not thinking about it. And then when you want to buy something for yourself, finding out that they're saying that you have too much debt, but that's not even something that you're enjoying. So a good debt. So we know that the bad debts, we're not co-signing for anything. We're not going to use credit cards to their limit, nowhere near. We're going to keep them under 30% of their balance used, which I find that is interesting. Because back in the day, before all these algorithms and stuff like that, I used to tell people, oh, you only need one credit card. When in reality now, if you have 5 credit cards and you're only using like 10% of each credit line, you're better off than having one credit card and you've put 60% or 50% of that credit line is being used. Isn't that interesting? So if you're going to use it, you're going to have to make sure that that credit line be increased and that credit line be high enough for you to be able to use it for what you need. And then it would be great if you can pay it off each month so that you can have it paid off, or make sure that you're keeping it below that 30% consistently, and you're building up a good track record, a good payment record. And God forbid, don't ever pay that late. Those things will chew you up at the impact on your FICO score. So be very careful. I think that this is interesting. I'm gonna read this to you, something that I found. It said, well, check out, also a website to check out is myfico.com. Then on myfico.com, pointed out that a top credit score of between 760 and 850 would get you an average interest rate of about 3.11 for a 30-year fixed rate loan. While the worst credit score, 620 to 639, would get you a 4.70. So for a $160,000 loan for a home, for a $200,000 home, so that means they're putting down a down payment. So they're getting a loan for $160,000, they're putting down $40,000. That works out to be about a $684 payment for each month for a person with a great credit score versus a $830 a month credit payment for the worst credit score, or the really poor credit score. And so a total interest paid of $86,000, just over $86,000 over that 30-year period, versus $138,000 plus paid for the worst credit score. So they got a $200 higher payment, and then they're paying, oh my goodness, that's like almost $60,000 more in interest over the term of the loan. Quite a difference. So look at your credit score before purchasing a home. Home mortgage could be a good debt to have, as long as you pick the appropriate mortgage for you. If you're going to be around for a while, you're planning on staying there, you have a big family, and it's the most cost-effective way for housing for your family is to have a home. There's so many different types of loans. Be very careful about that. We don't take it seriously enough, but I think that when you're thinking about purchasing a home, that you should really seriously consider talking to someone like me, talking to a financial advisor about the forms that are given to you, and really thinking about it. I always encourage, because a lot of times you have to realize that in that situation, you need to bring in someone that's unbiased into the situation. So the realtor, the salesperson is getting paid, the loan company is getting paid, so everybody's getting paid. What do? How you need to bring in someone who is getting paid to help you. And that's where your financial advisor will come in. Or those are the benefits of a member. If there's an AfroEconomics member and they're closing in their home and this has happened, that member, will run things by me on how to actually approach the specific situation. And it is a blessing to have success stories on how, if you talking with your financial advisor and then you approach the entire situation intellectually with the financial empowerment in you, then you'll realize that you're the one that's in control. Too often, from an AfroEconomic perspective, we think that they're doing us a favor, when in reality, we're the top. You're the top of the food chain. They need your business. But we've been programmed to think that we need them to give us that loan. No, they need you to take out that loan. That's how they get paid. They're gonna get paid for 30 years off you. So be very careful on your loan situation and how you select the loan and which interest rates you settle for, and understanding what score you should be getting, and then understanding how sometimes it can say things like, you don't have to bring any money to the table, but that's costing you a lot of money over the long term, but not, getting an understanding of what is it costing me to not bring any money to the table. So another, which could be very good debt, is financing your education, right? School loans are for your financial empowerment, funding your education. Now, y'all, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm here for you. So thank you so much for hanging with me. So funding your education, according to the College Board, that it costs about $24,000 for a public education now, and it costs almost $50,000 for a private college education. So, but we do know that graduates with degrees typically on average, make more money than people who don't have a college degree or training or a skill. So we have to get this education. It doesn't have to be, and when we're talking about college, we're not just talking about just the typical, just the university of, learning. We're talking about any type of higher education past high school. So those will help you getting that post high school education can help you increase your income over your lifetime. The scary part is when you're late into your career and you go into this debt because it's something that you've always wanted to do. Well, you have to be very, very careful, because you have to make sure, and I have a section in the book about this, that how long will it take for you and how much a raise can you get that will take care of that loan? Because I'm telling you, you're getting a government loan for education, they will garnish your Social Security to make sure that that government education loan gets paid back. So there is no free ride. It's not. So be very careful how, realizing that getting an education and using loans late in your career can cost you a comfortable retirement. It's real. So, but definitely, the school loans are for your empowerment, using them properly, just like so credit cards on the bad part, improper use of credit cards, but credit cards can be good. School loans can be bad because people are using school loans in many situations very poorly, to buy cars, to, take care of all these things that's not what it's for. If we keep it strictly for, I got to use this for taking care of tuition and housing during that particular time, and make sure that you get the most affordable, cost-effective housing. Because I have AfroEconomics members who are dealing with $1,000 school loan payments. That's a lot for someone who's just getting out of college. So this is real. That's probably on the low side for us. Research says that Black college graduates tend to have higher school loan balances and have to take longer to pay them back. So this is real. We have to be very, very careful with that. What could be empowering and good for some can hurt us for a very long time. And when you think about debt, we don't think about the fact that you can actually use debt to your advantage. You can use loans to actually buy investments. You can use loans to buy investment properties. Like, say if you get a loan to buy an investment property of real estate so that you want to generate income from that property. Well, that is a good use of debt, because you want to have the minimum amount of your money in it so that you're leveraging that loan to generate the maximum amount of income. And most importantly, that if you're using that loan for a business, for a real estate business, for a business, for a business, that interest and that payment can be tax deductible. So those are some good use of loans if you're using it in order to build a business or build an investment. So to increase income, to increase revenue, to to bridge you while you're waiting to get paid for a particular contract. You know, these are good uses of debt, and debt can be empowering. But these bad uses of debt, sometimes they can mess you up on being able to use debt to your advantage. And that's the challenge. I was telling my daughter yesterday, I was talking about that in the game of golf, that any major golfer will tell you that it's the short game that will mess you up from actually winning the entire thing. Because you want to keep your points down in golf, for example, and then you get down to the putt and it takes you 2 putts on one thing that should just take you 1 putt, then that short game will mess you up. It's that, and then people don't practice. Everybody practice doing their drive. Everybody practice on going long. Everybody practice on that part, but they don't practice on the little stuff that really can be what's most important. A little TD credit card missed payment can mess you up with multiple thousands of dollars on getting the best mortgage because a year ago you paid a credit card payment late. This stuff is real. You know, so I was telling her about just breaking down the segments of classes, and we were looking at a syllabus, and we were saying, she was like, well, tests are 40% of your grade. That's the biggest part. And I said, no, that's 40%. What is the other 60% composed of? And she said, well, homework, this and this and that. That's what we got to do. We got to look at this, you know what I'm saying? All those little things that add up, they actually make up the biggest, they make the biggest impact on our use of debt to our advantage, or they make the biggest impact on our credit score. So let's not look over the little things so that we can make sure that we protect our credit and maximize our use of major opportunities, so that you want to take out loans for a business or take out a loan to buy investment properties, or that you are actually in place for that. It's that little bit of savings that you do each month that give you that down payment so that you can get better credit scores, or give you that down payment, or give you that time where you can actually have a bridge that you made for yourself in between jobs or a job loss. And it's that step of saying, we're only going to take on debt that one person in the household can pay. Big move, but it takes a lot of discipline in order to do that. Because what happens is, too often, if you have 2 people in the household, you're taking on debt for both people. You know, so if something happens with one person, they can't work for some reason, or they lose their job, you know, then you both suffer from it, you know, and the whole household suffers from it. And we don't want that to happen. We have a comment that says, is paying less than a minimum payment on a credit card better than nothing? Paying less than the minimum on a credit card, that's a really good question, because I would definitely communicate directly with the company, because they might see that as actually paying nothing, you know. And so if a person is in that type of situation, they need to make sure that they call the credit card company and get them to change the minimum payment to what they actually can afford. It's like the government school loans are the most flexible loans that you can have, one of the most flexible ones that you can have, because they will actually, if you have a government school loan and your income isn't as high as you anticipated, you can call them and say, I'm only making this. So that's what you want to do with the credit card companies, because they will, you know, penalize you if they, you know, how will they penalize you for making less than what they're saying as the minimum payment? Will that be counted as a late payment, or will it just be counted as, I got to pay extra interest rate? So so the best way to approach that is to say that I only have this, then I'm gonna pay this. How will that impact me? You know, so definitely it's always better to pay it, but you need to know exactly how that's going to impact you and try to get them to adjust your minimum payment to match what you can pay, if at all possible. And then also, a good move can be, and I'm glad that that comment like made me think about this. A good move can be to consolidate debts. But what happens is sometimes when people consolidate in order to get into a better position, they might be able to consolidate to get a better interest rate, or they consolidate their credit card debts and they're able to use home equity at a better interest rate, possibly. What happens if you go back and do that debt all over again, then it messes up messes you up even more. And more often than not, that's what happens. So consolidating for a better credit position is a positive move and a good use of debt, but it's a dangerous move if you don't have the discipline to avoid it. So when I'm thinking that maybe in that situation, if you switch to a different loan that has a smaller minimum payment, which might be needed to do in that type of situation, you have to be careful of the small print. Going in everything that you go into, we have to go into it realizing the worst case scenario. So you get this new credit card offer and it says no payments for 6 months. So you take all your credit cards, you move it over, and then at the end of the 6 months, they charge you $100 fee and the interest rate is higher than the other one. And but no, that may not be a good move. Sounds like a horrible move, but most people do it and they've never asked them what happens if I don't pay it off in 6 months. See, that will only work for you if you're able to pay it off in 6 months. You have this big deal coming in and you can pay it off. You go over there, you got no interest in this, then it works. But if not, a lot of times they will pack on all of the months of no interest, like those no interest for a year furniture deals. Well, you got to pay that off in a year, or all that interest that you didn't pay will be added on, boom, and hit you. So there is no that is something that we really have to understand, because it's always fun understanding stocks and understanding these exciting things on Wall Street and all this, but we have to understand these small game things, these things that really impact us, these things that stop us from being able to save more, these things that stop us from being able to live the lifestyle that we deserve. Because a lot of us were just started our career. As I say, I started my career negative because I started my career with school loans. But I immediately went into paying those off. They were done extremely quickly, avoided credit cards and everything. And then later in life, the things get complicated and you start getting all these offers. And then what? Even those who have the greatest of intentions, boom, I all of a sudden found myself with debt everywhere. Because what? My credit score is so great, they'll start sending you everything. And then I said, I can't live this way. And I got rid of everything. But you have to make that commitment. And I had to learn to live within and below my means. That's what you have to do, especially if you want to have a successful business, because we're under a lot of stress already. And then when you're starting the month with a whole bunch of unnecessary flamboyant bills, it will kill you. And the stress and death are friends. We do not need to be stressed out over unnecessary things. So we have a purpose to be here. We have a reason to be here, but we do not have to impress anyone in order for us to live the life that we deserve. We deserve to have peace and joy and comfort, but not flamboyance and trying to keep up with the Joneses and impressing anybody. Hey, that's for the birds, no more. Now it's time for us to realize that we all have to look out for ourselves, our families, and no woe is me. Nobody's coming to save us. Nope, not gonna happen. When all that went down and the government gave out all that money, they did not send any money to those victims of the predatory lending. Those banks are still banks, and the families that lost their homes and everything, a lot of them look like us. So we need to realize that we have to be smart on everything that we sign, everything that we do, all of the money that we spend. We deserve to have a pleasant life and live within our means, and question everything before you sign it. Anything that looks too good to be true generally is. Well, thank you all for your day. Thank you for your time. I will hang out for a second. I'm gonna just stop the recording now. I will have this here for you. It will be in the YouTube library and everything. You all have a wonderful day. In the webinar, stay with me. I will chat with you. Have a great day.